Good morning and welcome to the Camnet Breakfast Show, Thursday edition, Governance, Policy and Politics, with me, Patrick Soko, and my co-host, Prudence Chota. Welcome to the program, Madam. Good morning.
Thank you so much, Mr. Soko.
You will no longer be a guest, you will be permanent today.
Hopefully, Mr. Patrick Soko, but of course, it is a good morning for me. You know, Man City yesterday just did some wonders, so the smile is beyond this world. So yeah, of course it is a beautiful morning, and to everyone watching Camnet TV this morning, it is exciting that you can join us for a wonderful discussion we'll be having this morning. Very soon, Patrick Soko will be opening our phone lines with regards to today's topic, where we are expecting to hear a lot from the viewers out there. We know there are two big things one big thing that is about to happen, and one big thing that happened yesterday. We did see the Food Reserve Agency announce the
maize flour price.
Yes.
Yeah. So the price has been announced, and it looks like a good deal for the farmers. However, others have also hinted that it has its own repercussions, considering that now it means that even the bag of meal, there should be some changes there. But are you ready for those changes? You can give us your perspective. To just get started, first of all, we'll get straight to the health corner of Dr. Mufaya, so that we can get to hear what she has prepared for us in as far as health is concerned. Keep it on Camnet.
Hi, good morning and welcome to the Health Corner here on the Breakfast Show. My name is Dr. Nakuyana Mufaya. So this week we are going to talk about a very common diarrheal disease. It's a condition that is very common amongst us. It's more of an endemic amongst in our communities. So we'll talk about typhoid fever. So I'm sure most of you have heard about typhoid fever. You probably have gone to the hospital and you've been told that you have typhoid. So this week we want to understand exactly what is typhoid, and also how it comes about, and some of the signs and symptoms of a person or a patient that has typhoid. And we also want to know how is it diagnosed in the hospital, and how can you prevent yourself from getting this condition of typhoid. So today we'll discuss what is typhoid. Typhoid is a diarrheal disease, as we have mentioned. It's caused by a bacteria, and this bacteria is called Salmonella. Now Salmonella, there are two types, most of them that cause typhoid, two major types. There's the Salmonella typhi and the Salmonella paratyphi. So these two bacteria are the ones that cause typhoid, and usually it's gotten from the fecal oral route. By that I mean somebody has to ingest it from their food. So it's shed through the feces, and if someone has not washed their hands and they have touched food and then they ingest that food that is contaminated, then they would get the bacteria, which will attack the immune cells in the intestines. So it attacks the lining of the intestines, and in the lining of the intestines we find some immune cells. So those cells will be attacked, and eventually they will start, the bacteria will make the immune cells to start producing more of the bacteria itself. So as the bacteria multiplies, that is how come you start getting these symptoms of being sick. So usually it takes about 7 to 14 days before you can start having any symptoms. We call that period the incubation period. So it's a period where the body is still producing more of the bacteria, and it's still infecting your body until at a time when it starts manifesting in different ways, and you start having symptoms of typhoid. So this typhoid can, as we have said, it can cause damage to the intestines, and sometimes the damage can be so severe such that it can cause perforation. So by perforation, we are talking about causing a leakage in the intestine. So your intestines can have end up having a hole or a perforation, and some fluids from the intestines can start leaking into the abdomen, the overall abdomen. So that's one of the complications of this typhoid. So it's important that we know exactly how it comes about, and we know how we can prevent it, and also know the symptoms, so that once you see yourself having these symptoms, or know somebody who is having these symptoms, then you quickly rush them to the hospital where they can get treatment. So make sure you watch the other episodes this week, where we'll talk more about typhoid. I hope you have learned something today. If you want to learn more about other topics, make sure you watch my YouTube channel, which is Dr. Nakubyanamfire, on YouTube and also on Facebook. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me on Facebook at Dr. Nakubyanamfire. I'll see you next time. Stay blessed and stay healthy.
There you have it. That was Dr. Mufaya there on the Health Corner. We hope you did manage to get one or two things from that informative topic. And in case you want something the doctor can tackle in terms of what you feel she can address on this program, you can actually send us that message on our socials, as well as send us a text message. We'll be able to provide the feedback and make sure that we tackle topics of your interest. Prudence.
Of course, Patrick Soko, we care about our viewers. That's why we do bring them the Health Corner, where the doctor talks about a number of things. I know we can learn one or two things. Actually, it's not just learning for the viewer. Even as Patrick Soko, we get to learn a lot of things on this program. So that's about it. Yesterday, we did see the Ministry of Finance, or rather the Bank of Zambia governor, make some pronouncements in the areas of why our local currency has been performing the way it is performing. I know the Bank of Zambia did that part. So, but before we look at some of those stories, we are going to see how is it that our local currency is performing against other major convertibles this morning on the money market. So let's get to see the performance of the money market today, Thursday, the 18th of April, or is it May 2023? Trying to go back to April. This year is actually moving very fast, Patrick Soko. So
it is.
Yeah, let's get to see the money market there. I don't know, my director, if we are good to go, but it seems, yeah, that is the money market for this morning. As of 18th of May 2023 at 0729, the Great British Pound was buying at 22 kwacha 94 ngwe and selling at 23 kwacha 39 ngwe. The Zambian kwacha against the United States dollar is buying at 18 kwacha 47 ngwe and selling at 18 kwacha 78 ngwe. The Zambian kwacha against the euro, they are buying at 19 kwacha 92 ngwe and selling at 20 kwacha 31 ngwe. The Zambian kwacha against the South African rand is buying at 0.95 ngwe and selling at 0.97 ngwe. So that is the money market for today, April 18th, May 18th, pardon me, I need to get this out of my mouth, Patrick Soko saying April. It's
There's
of course
something with the month of April. Tell us, what are you not telling us?
I don't know, Patrick Soko, the excitement of going to May. Perhaps maybe I don't want to grow old, I just want to remain in 2023. The more time is moving, Patrick Soko, the more I'll have wrinkles on my face, on my hands.
You can't avoid that, madam.
But that is the money market. I know the governor yesterday did talk a little bit about why we've seen our local currency not performing well. And he also said they made some interventions in that effect, such as, releasing some money from the reserves, from the country's reserves. They had to release it during that month because they needed to counter things like inflation and the depreciation of the kwacha. But despite those interventions, we did see the kwacha slightly calm down, and of course it has started going back to depreciating. So
let's look at some of the stories that are making the headlines, and we'll start on the business aspect, and that's where the same story pertaining to the Bank of Zambia has alleged that most of the resources are being borrowed by the private sector are not being used for investment but for consumption purposes. Speaking at a monetary policy announcement meeting in Lusaka Wednesday, Central Bank Governor Dan Kaleria says the credit to the private sector continued to grow by 35.9% in March 2023 compared to 34.2% recorded last year, but that there is nothing in the economy to show where the resources are being spent. Meanwhile, economist Trevor Hambai says most of businesses are failing to borrow from the banks because of the interest rates are too high, and that the conditions attached to borrowing are not favorable at all. So let's get to listen to this story. We'll be back on the other side, and you can continue giving us now your perspective on this story and other stories, as well as the topic that we are looking at today, so that we can get interacting on the Camnet Breakfast Show.
As Zambia continues to grapple with low productivity levels among the private sector, the Bank of Zambia says credit to the private sector in March of 2023 grew to 35.9% compared to 34.2% recorded in the same period last year. This means that the private sector borrowed more resources in the forecast period, but the Bank of Zambia Governor Dr. Denny Kalyalia has wondered where the borrowed resources are being spent, as there are no activities in the economy showing investment apart from the fact that those borrowing are doing so in order to build houses.
What we see, what we see currently is that a lot of credit is going to the households. And we have seen banks advertising for personal loans being available.
The governor has since encouraged the Zambian people to borrow resources and invest in key economic areas that will contribute to the development of the country.
What we are trying to do here is that can people be able to borrow directly for the projects that they are doing rather than coming through the channel of personal loans? Because when you do personal loans, usually the underlying collateral is the payslip that you have.
And economist Trevor Hambai says the reason why companies are failing to borrow in order to invest is simply because the lending rates by the bank are too high.
And part of the private sector is obviously the entrepreneurs, which is mostly our SMEs. This sector has generally not been able to borrow from the financial institutions. There are a number of factors that are speaking to this. The first one is the high cost of borrowing, is that the interest rate that they are being charged is far too high for them to borrow in the long term.
On the other hand, Dr. Kalyalia says the lower projected crop harvest for the 2022 to 2023 farming season, as well as the high price of maize, will have a negative impact on the Zambian economy, which will contribute to the rise in the country's inflation rate.
Anxiously waiting to hear what the Minister of Agriculture will be saying, what is the level of crop production this year is. But signs are that it will be less than what it was the previous year. And that, if that materializes and we don't do other things, we may see that impact negatively on our inflation.
On the other hand, the Central Bank of Zambia has for the second time in 2023 revised the monetary policy rate upwards, but this time by 25 basis points from 9.25% recorded in the first quarter to 9.5% in the second quarter of 2023. Puris Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
There you have it. You are still watching the Camnet Breakfast Show with me, Patrick Soko, and Prudence Trotter, and we were zooming in one of the stories pertaining to the Bank of Zambia Governor, Dr. Denny Kalyarya. Interesting perspectives there. People are borrowing to for consumption or to just do personal things, buy a car, or rather build a house. You know, that's what people are doing.
No one is looking at
investing in something.
Can I borrow and start a business? And you know, that is raising concern because the governor was saying, you know, people are sucking money. Like we've seen that it's good when the private sector is borrowing. We've seen an increase. But we don't know where that money is going. Even the Bank of Zambia does not know because there's nothing in the economy showing that this money is being spent like this. So that's why I was saying, if you've seen, there are a lot of financial institutions that are only advertising personal loans. Why aren't people advertising agriculture loans or business loans? Everyone is just advertising personal loans because people are now just borrowing. You go home, you chew the money, you give them the pay slip, wait for 10 years or 5 years to finish getting the money from your pay slip. And that's people are just living hand to mouth.
Should I ask you a question?
Please.
What is the long-term objective for Zambia pertaining to agriculture or empowering citizens? Like, what's the long-term? What does Zambia want to see in the next 30 years?
I know what we want to be when it comes to agriculture, government has these aspirations of becoming the food basket in the region, if possible.
What programs and policies are there?
The migrating from, you know, the World FISIP program has been done to the new package which they plan to
the same, the comprehensive agricultural support program.
Yes, we've not yet tested it, so we don't know how it will work. So it will be so quick for us to say, no, this program is going to work.
Now, this is where I want to come in now, Prudence. You cannot be doing things and guessing that people do the right thing. So the leadership, they have to take it to say, we want to see our people are getting involved in businesses. What businesses have we identified as a country that people should thrive in and make sure they grow and contribute to the economy? If you look at the business which Zambians can do perfectly, the business of, let's say, chicken rearing, foreigners are taking it over. They are dominating that industry. But how do you expect Zambians to engage in meaningful business? On this program, Prudence, where they call from Kasumbalesa, who was saying we are involved we bring chicken here to take to the DRC. But there's this white man who has come to set up a poultry farm just here and is exporting the directly to DRC and selling per chick at 50 kwacha. So as we are getting these chicks from chicken from Lusaka to come and export here, what are we going to find? Because you may be selling at 70 kwacha, but are we going to have business for that? You see the question. Now, it's about us as a country taking deliberate efforts to make sure that some businesses that can be a preserve of Zambians are promoted, and Zambians are encouraged to, for example, when we're looking at the comprehensive agriculture support program, we need to look at how do we grow these people from being small-scale peasant farmers into commercial farmers. Because if you look at commercial farmers, even those most of them that are under the Zambia National Farmers Union, these are commercial farmers that are of foreign origin. They are not the indigenous Prudence trotters, like they would you start and you grow there. So now, but again, how do we make sure that our people are dominating these sectors? Those are policies the government needs to be developing, because that's the only way people will invest their money, because they are guaranteed to say there's good support there. There's, let's say for instance, the soya beans. You know, they are saying that the FRA is not going to buy soya beans for this season. But if you look at someone who's been growing soya beans, already their market predictability is affected. They don't know where to sell their soya beans. Who is going to facilitate their exportation of their soya beans? Those are things we need to look at. But commercial farmers, it's easier. They have the technical know-how. They have the right human resource, but for a peasant farmer who has grown this crop, how are they going to manage to export their commodity, their merchandise? What direct policies are we putting in place as a country to make sure that these small-scale farmers are supported to be able to support even crop diversification? But if you see, focus continues to be on maize. And if you look at the price of maize now, it continues to increase. We're seeing a drop in the price of cotton last week. So now, but if you see these are tendencies that affect crop diversification as also maximizing the benefits and the potential of the agriculture sector.
We are talking a lot about, you know, diversification. At the same time, we are killing some agriculture. We are killing our own farmers, some farmers, because I'm sure for those who did soybeans or even cotton, they've been discouraged. But also talking about that, Patrick Soko, Trevor Ambai there raised a very important aspect. He says, how do you expect someone to borrow and invest that resource when the lending rates by the banks are too high? So he was saying, and you know, I don't know the mathematics that is here. I'm sure for those who were watching the program yesterday, I did even ask the Bank of Zambia this question. When you look at the monetary policy, Soko, you realize that, for example, government has pushed it to 9.5, meaning banks are borrowing at 9.5 from the central bank. But them, when they are lending. So why is there a big gap between the MPER and the retail lending rates? Because when you go to borrow from a bank today, they'll give you money at 30% interest. But them at the bank, they're getting at 9.25. So why is there that huge gap? And also, Trevor Ambai raised the point to say, you know, I want to borrow, for example, to build a warehouse. That would give me return in about maybe 3 years to 4 years. Maybe that's when I might make profit from that warehouse I want to build. And then I borrow money. And then, you know, when you borrow, the bank will only give you a small period for you to start repaying back. And then the investment I've done maybe will give me money or profit after 3 years. So now I'm paying interest at 30%. How do you expect me to borrow and go and invest in that business? That will give me return after 3 years when the bank wants 30% of what I've borrowed. So he was saying the lending rates are very high, the retail lending rates are very high on the market to an extent where people would rather borrow just to consume and find means of paying than to invest, because, you know, you invest in a business and then you know that whatever profit I'll have to make out of this, 30% of what I borrowed plus 30%, I have to return to a bank. So who would want to borrow to invest? So the lending rates on the market are very expensive, very high, which Trevor Ambai advised that, you know, if we are to ensure that the private sector is borrowing for investment, these are the issues we should be dealing with. You can't have this huge gap between the MPR and the retail lending rates. How?
Yeah, so interesting views there. Let's look at some of the stories, especially the stories we are looking at pertaining to the agriculture sector, Madam Chota, the maize floor price.
Yes, this is even the topic that we are discussing. Wherever you are watching us, we are opening our phone lines and we are going to want to hear from you, especially the farmers, Eastern, Yoko Province, Southern, Western. Let's get to hear what you are saying about this. So the Food Reserve Agency, in case you missed it yesterday, did announce the floor of the price for different commodities on the market. So the Food Reserve Agency has set the price for a 50-kilogram bag of white maize for 2023 at 280 kwacha. Remember last year it was at 180. Today it has been moved to 280 kwacha. 100 kwacha increase, I've already explained that. And the price of a 40-kilogram bag of paddy rice has been maintained at 200 from last year's price. But remember, there is a lot that has changed in our agriculture sector, but rice remains the same. This is what Patrick and I were discussing. So announcing the 2023 FRA buying price Wednesday, FRA board chairperson Kelvin Hambwezia also says the agency will, however, not be buying any soybeans from farmers as it has an excess of 100,000 metric tons of carryover soybeans, which it has failed to find a market. I can really wonder, Patrick Soko, how FRA would fail to find a market when we have DRC demanding all the agriculture
just
produce
here in
that
Zambia, we need soybeans for production of cooking oil. Because cooking oil has been expensive. But how do we subsidize cooking oil? Because cooking oil is also an important economic commodity.
Don't even go very far. Chicken feed. We just ran out of chicken feed, I think, for a certain period. Soybeans sometimes is used to make chicken feed. I know there's a mixture of soybeans and maize. So when they said they failed to find a market, like, I really have a lot going on my mind, but you know, we don't use opinion. The FRA board chairperson says the price has been arrived at after wide stakeholder consultation and prevailing market conditions to ensure that farmers get a good return for their investment. When they say farmers, I don't know which farmers they mean. If you can't buy soybeans from the farmers and you're saying we've arrived at this price so that farmers get a good price, including paddy rice, there's no increase, Patrick Soko, but they're saying we've done this. So in short, they're just saying farmers will grow maize. Let's be specific here. But anyway, before we allow you, the farmer there, to give us those that phone to air your view, are you impressed with what has been announced? Let's get to see this story that Zipporah covered that made headline in our news yesterday.
Farmers across the country have been holding their breath in readiness for the 2023 food buying price from the Food Reserve Agency FRA, as many of them say they have toiled and labored to protect their crops until maturity due to various factors like climate change and an increase in the cost of production. FRA Board Chairperson Kelvin Hambweza Thursday morning announced that the agency has also taken into consideration the said factors and has therefore set the buying price at 280 kwacha for a 50 kilogram bag of white maize from 180 kwacha in 2022, 200 kwacha for a 40 kilogram bag of paddy rice, the same as in 2022, while adding that they will not buy any soya beans as they struggle to find soybean market and have carried over 100,000 metric tons. Mr. Hambweze asked that the agency will in 2023 operate 1,200 satellite depots to provide market for small-scale farmers across the country.
We'll be buying a bag of maize, 50 kg bag of maize, at 280 kwacha.
Not that bad.
We'll be buying one bag, 50 kilogram of maize at 280 kwacha a bag, which translates to 5,600 kwacha a ton. Last year we were buying at 180 kwacha a bag. We have increased the price by 100 kwacha. So we're buying at 280 kwacha the 50 kilogram bag of maize. This price, ladies and gentlemen, is cost reflective. This price reflects to a closer extent the happenings in the regional market. Millers are still drawing maize from FRA. We do not expect this price that we're announcing today to distort minimum prices for at least the next 1 month.
Reacting to the statements, Grain Traders Association of Zambia chairperson George Luakopoulos says the maize price will help in reducing smuggling, while urging government to consider opening up borders once the local market is satisfied.
Once we have the opportunity to assess how much maize has been produced, we call this the post-harvest report, which can be conducted and presented to the stakeholders sometime beyond October or November. At that point, we can assess and understand whether we have surplus quantities and whether we can consider opening for the exports of maize.
Meanwhile, Millers Association of Zambia President Andrew Chintala says there is need to quickly release the 2023 crop forecast survey while calling for the relaxing of local movement restrictions for maize now that buying has officially started.
It remains a challenge to us without the crop forecast survey results to plan where and when to enter the market. We know that that information is quite critical because it is detailed in a sense that it is going to spell out where maize or certain quantities of maize is supposed to come.
The 2023 crop buying exercise is expected to create about 10,000 seasonal jobs, while FRA has committed to paying all farmers on time. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
There you have it. That was the Food Reserve Agency yesterday announcing the floor price for commodities on the market. Maize, a 50 kilogram bag of white maize there we've seen, it has been increased by 100 kwacha from last year's to 280 from 180 that was given last year. For soybeans, if you are a soybeans farmer, remember last year FRA was buying at 500. Unfortunately, this year the Food Reserve Agency says it will not buy any soybeans because it has a lot in stock and they can't find market. And then for paddy rice, they've said they will be buying at 200 kwacha. Such was the price last year. But before we get to discuss that also, we did see Citizen First Party President Harry Kalaba urge government to engage the Zambia National Service to deliver 50% of the maize to ensure that millers access the maize at a cheaper price to prevent a situation where mealie meal goes beyond the price of most citizens in 2024. Speaking to Camnet News, Mr. Kalaba says the country may soon see itself back into a situation where a 25-kilogram bag of breakfast mealie meal fetches for as high as 300 kwacha due to the buying price set by FRA from farmers, as millers will add transportation and production costs to the price of mealie meal. The CFP president notes that while the interests of farmers have been considered, this has not been balanced with the interest of citizens, a situation which may lead to hunger if left uncorrected. So before we come back to discuss with my colleague these two stories, let's first see what the president for Citizen First said with regards to this story.
While boasting to be one of the main maize farming countries in Africa with a steady annual supply, the price of mealie meal, which is Zambia's staple food, is always the topic on the political scene, as it is said to be beyond the reach of many ordinary citizens. Barely 1 month ago, what was referred to by many political stakeholders as a national crisis hit the country, as there were reports of widespread maize and mealie meal shortages, causing the prices to shoot up, and citizens queuing up just to buy a 25-kilogram bag of breakfast mealie meal, while some shopping malls also restricted the purchase to only 1 bag per person. With the Food Reserve Agency FRA, which is the main maize buyer from farmers, having announced that it will be buying a 50-kilogram bag of white maize at 280 kwacha from 180 kwacha in 2022, the Citizens First Party CFP, through its president Harry Kalaba, have predicted that the price of mealie meal will unreasonably shoot up come 2024. FRA has also announced that it will only buy white maize and paddy rice from farmers and not soya beans, as it has excess.
The suggested maize price that should have been done should have been, first of all, you should have looked at the market environment. What is obtaining on the market? Then you strike a balance. Because as Citizens First would have wanted to strike a balance between what we are getting from the farmers and what the price of mealie meal would be. That is why we would have said Zambia National Service needs to come to kickstart working. Because if Zambia National Service can begin producing 50% of this nation's consumption capacity, it automatically means that the price of mealie meal will come down. Even if you give the farmers that kind of a price, because of ZNS producing, the price of mealie meal will not be affected. Now you have to factor in transport from those that will be buying, plus production costs. So strictly speaking, a bag of mealie meal will be costing well beyond 270, 300 kwacha per 25 kg kilogram bag going into next year. Now, so Zambians must brace themselves. When we told them that this government doesn't know what it is doing, these are things we're talking about. They like playing politics at the expense of understanding what is going on. And because of this, there will be a disaster. There will be a hunger in this country. It's a very big scandal because basically you are telling the soya beans growers that government is not interested in that. We have been talking as Citizens First. We are saying that this is the only country where you produce soya beans and yet soya chunks are being made in Tanzania. Soya chunks are being made in Zimbabwe. We are not even ashamed. We are saying ourselves, this is the time to begin promoting the soya beans growers so that we can begin thinking of growing the industry. But instead of upping the price of soybeans, you completely obliterate the soybean farmers so they can be at the whims of briefcase businessmen and women.
Meanwhile, Buy Zambia campaign executive director Ivan Zingoma has called on private soybean buyers to buy at a price that will not disadvantage farmers.
One of the seasonal buyers is not buying this time around. It means that they will have enough stock. This, I think, through the Farmer Association, the Zambia National Farmers Union, their farmers should be encouraged to sell the commodity to soya crushers.
Has been advised to see to it that they safeguard the interest of all citizens, both farmers and consumers. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
There you have it. That was Citizens First Party President Harry Kalaba reacting, Patrick Soko, to the announcement that was made by the Food Reserve Agency. So for those who missed, that's what we had in the news yesterday regarding the price that the Food Reserve Agency announced for a 50-kilogram bag of white maize, Soko, 280. Farmer this year, farmer. Unfortunately, if you are a soybeans farmer, you have to sell your commodity to private buyers. I think also, Soko, in as much as government has left Zambia as an open market where people can just trade, I think on this particular part, we need a little bit of intervention from the government to ensure that the private buyer don't exploit the farmers. Because I know in some areas, like in Eastern Province, someone just called us, I think just 2 weeks ago, where they were complaining that, oh no, if you see the price at which soybeans is being bought by these private buyers, like you would cry. Like they've really exploited them. And of course, I know they were waiting to see what FRA was going to do and announce. And so before FRA can announce, they got on the market and exploited people. Now that FRA says, Patrick, they'll not be buying soybeans, imagine what's going to happen if at all they already began by exploiting people.
Yeah, you're right in that. We just hope that, like you were saying, we need to be regulating the sector to make sure that the farmers are not exploited. Because if we do not do that, then we defeat the purpose of empowering the farmers and making sure that Zambians are actively engaged in the agriculture sector. Because we know that commercial interests, at the end of the day, do not mean well for this agriculture. If you look at Zambia, it has been highly been fed by small-scale farmers through and through. But now, if you commercialize everything, this is where the agricultural sector becomes unmanageable. We are looking at various aspects. For example, if you look at the seed industry. The seed industry has been captured by commercial interest in that they will dictate the price at which they are selling their seed. So you find that a farmer has no option, has no say in that. But traditionally in Africa, we've been using recycling our seed. We would manage our seed and be able to have good yield and everything. But now, these seed companies are dictating because they want to dominate and they want to also kill that indigenous seed. So now, so that they can control the price. Now, if they say we are selling at this price, you cannot say anything. It's what is on the market. But if in the market there's variety and people are also allowed to use their seed, then there are those advantages, prudence that come in terms of us making sure that there's enhanced productivity by also not moving too much into commercial aspects. It is the same for fertilizer, prudence. If we look at the past, our grandparents, our parents have been farming God's way, in that they would work with conservation agriculture, and they would manage to have good yields. But if you look at the moment, the price of fertilizer is dictating the market to say this, and if you look at fertilizer, it is 1,000, almost to 1,000, if not beyond. Now, if you are buying that, and how much are you buying as a small-scale farmer? And that's if you're not benefiting from the Farmers Input Support Program, which has been rebranded as the Comprehensive Agriculture Support Support Program. Now, all those aspects, they are farmers like individuals who are not part of any government scheme. How do they farm? How do they access this fertilizer? Now, it becomes expensive, but if we also look at those aspects very well, you'd see that will be within manageable levels. But usually commercial interests and also private interests sometimes tend to affect the way we do our politics and run our affairs as a country. So now let's be getting the calls from our farmers there to give us their views regarding how they feel this maize for price. As how do they receive it? And are they welcoming it?
Yes, and of course, Patrick Soko, the DP leader there, the Citizen First Party President Party President Harry Kalaba, mentions the fact that this price is too much. According to him, he says this price is too much. Imagine if a 50-kilogram bag of white maize is being bought at 280. What do you expect to see with regards to the price of mealie meal. So he is condemned that. But again, last year, I know is one person who was very much condemning government after they announced the 180 price for maize. He said, this is too low. You can't give a farmer who's buying fertilizer at 600, 180.
You're right.
And then to this year, again, he says, no, that's too high. And what are we going to expect with regards to...
But I did follow him. He also mentioned interesting aspects. Much as he did criticize the move, he also mentioned the aspect of transportation and minimizing the cost of production for mealie meal, which the Zambian government should complement. If they do that, the prices may be within the range. But if they do not do that, the millers will have an excuse. You and I, Prudence, soon will be covering these millers saying to say, if we are buying this 50 kilo bag of maize at 280, how do you expect us to sell it to sell mealie at 150?
200, even 200.
So we are. It's simple mathematics there. It's basic economics. If the price of if the FRA and millers were buying at 180 kwacha, now in 2022 they are buying it in 2023 rather. They are buying it at so the mealie will be buying. The buying price is at the FRA level is at 180 Prudence. Then we look at the mealie meal now, which is the finished product. It was we were buying it at 180 as well, isn't it? Now, if the price is 280, just estimate how much can we buy a 25 kilo bag of maize? We are likely to buy it at 280 as well.
For mealie meal.
Chances are high. We are likely to buy it at 300 kwacha. So those are the things.
This is why I remember one of the guests.
Rather stop eating shit.
Yeah, you can't get away from your roots. This reminds me of one of the guests we hosted once on the program, Patrick. So this is why he was saying, this is why we as a country, I think it's not we hosted, or rather one person.
We should have a caller, is it?
Yeah, it seems we should have a caller. Hello? Okay, keep those phones coming. Let's join in the conversation today. The topic is, what is your take on the floor price that was announced of a 50 kilogram bag of white maize being bought by FRA at 280 kwacha, while government will not be buying any soya beans. At the same time, paddy rice has been maintained at 200 kwacha. So we want to hear from you, the farmer. Are you impressed with the price? And soya beans farmers also, let's get to hear what is happening. How much are you being charged by the private sector? Those who are coming to buy from you, how much are they buying from you, those prices? So we've opened our phone lines and we are going to have a conversation with everyone watching us with regards to this. Then remember, there is also another topic we are discussing this morning. Today at 10 hours, Zambia's Republican President Hakainde Hichilema is expected to address the press. He will be interacting with the media. So the question we are asking is, what are some of the things you expect the president to table at? Let's pick up that. Hello, sir. Good morning.
Hello, good morning, madam.
Good morning, thank you. You're through to Camnet TV. Please tell us your name, where you're watching us from, and you can go ahead with your contribution.
This is Camnet from a farmer.
Farmer kumwini rungo komunishani.
Madam.
Bueno. Aha, landen tufwe.
Madam, I'm a farmer who cultivates soybeans at a small scale. Then I cultivated last year about 50 bags of soybeans, and then this year I suggested to increase by at least an hectare. Then I've at least affected about the 70 bags of soybeans. As at now, the government has announced it is not buying soybeans. I'm very much stuck giving the family where to take the soybeans. We don't have any beans at the market here in Nigeria.
Oh, shame. There are no private buyers in Winilunga who buy soybeans?
There is nothing, madam. Even where we can take it, we don't know.
Today, okay, great concern there. Are you done, or you wish to say something more?
Okay, he has stressed at his point. That's just like we were explaining about the issue of market. I was talking about what does the government want to see. That's what I mean. You cannot leave things to run on autopilot. You know, I remember when we were at the PF in government, they used to say the country's on autopilot, like it's running on its own, things are moving on its own, and there's no one doing that. It's you know, it's like so it's like now you leave people to find initiatives and everything, but you know the role of government is to put in place policies and strategies. So now that farmer will struggle and will make a loss for this.
Let's get to hear what this other caller has to say.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, thank you, sir. You are through to the program. Please tell us your name, where you're calling us from, and you can go ahead with your contribution.
My name is Matoka John.
Mr. Matoka John?
Yes, calling you from Keren.
From where?
From Keren.
Ikelen,
No
okay.
problem.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Yes, please. As a farmers, we are concerned of soybean, because that now I have about 17 hectares of soybean. What could the government do? They would have announced the price of soybean later on, but not buying. Instead of announcing that the government won't buy the soybean. Those means those investors who buy the soybean, they'll reduce the price of soybean compared to last year.
Do you have private buyers in Igerenge?
But my farm is in Torres. Right now I'm in Ikeren, but we do sell in Torres in Danda farm. Yes, even last year I sold at Danda farm.
Okay, how much were they buying, and how much have they offered this year? Have you heard anything?
No, they are not yet announced the price for this year, but last year we were selling at 9 kwacha. And at first we sold at 12 kwacha. Yes.
A kg.
The last price we sold at 8 kwacha.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. John, for that feedback that we've gotten.
Yes, thanks very much.
Interesting there, the voice from Ikelen. It's very far in Solwezi, and interesting views coming there in terms of how now they are left vulnerable, you know, because the price was not even announced by FIA. So FIA is selectively making those decisions. But if you see the danger is that I can come and say, I can only buy at this because that's what I feel is the right price. You understand? But even when you had invested more in your
the only question is, how do people, Patrick, diversify? When you're talking about diversification, how does the agriculture sector diversify? If I told someone who's just called, you know, our first caller there, mentioned the fact that where he is, there are not even private buyers who buy soybeans. So now where do I even take my soybeans? Last year I did 25 bags, I did 50 bags. And this year I increased it to 70 bags.
Yeah. And there are many things we are not doing right as a country. Even announcing sorghum, even millet, even cassava. Looking at when the government was trying to justify the high cost of meal, they were saying, eat cassava meal.
I think we should have another caller. So let's see if we can accommodate another caller.
Ero, you are through to the program. No, we've lost her. So now, you say they should eat millet meal and everything, but what interest have you taken as a government? If you announce that and you also try to put it under strategic reserves, then people will know that the government is really putting an interest in this crop. Even diversification prudence will be a reality, because we know that these are crops the government is pushing. When you look at the agenda for the staple food, other countries have 5, 4, 2 staple foods. We only have maize. When Prudence Chota eats rice, she says, "I've not eaten pakafia kabwari." But those are, how can we change that notion if we're not doing that based on our policies? We're not trying to indicate a policy shift. So those are our concerns that we need to be addressing. Diversification, you said it very well. How do you get motivated to go for soybeans next year, to go for cotton next year? How do you get motivated when things are happening like that in the sector? When maize continues to be a dominant crop in the entire agriculture system, it becomes a problem altogether.
I think, Patrick Soko, today the president is addressing the press. You are, of course, expected to be there. Maybe let's get to hear the president. We're talking about diversification, but today on this program we've received calls. You can give examples of places where they've just called. The first caller, he said, literally here, we have no one who buys soybeans from us because we just depend on government. So where are we going to take our commodity? So what happens to soybeans farmers, especially those in rural areas where no one even goes to buy soybeans?
Especially remote areas where sometimes the private sector doesn't even reach.
Because we know their government reaches, but in those cases, because we've had a caller here say, me where I'm coming from, Kuno Kwatu, buyers. So I'm a small scale farmer.
I don't even know where to take
I don't even know. My family, we are stuck. At least the person from, Solwezi there, he says, we sell to a particular company, but even if the price is a little bit lower, it's mentioned a concern to say, even if we buy from, where we sell that. Last year they were giving us at, how much did he say? 8 kwacha. They started at 12 kwacha, then they moved it to 8 kwacha. Yes, but if you calculate 8 kwacha, Patrick Soko, times 50 kilogram bag, that's about 400. That is even a bit lower than what government was offering us, because government was offering us at 500 kwacha. So I think 8 kg, 8 kwacha for a 50 kilogram bag, that should be 400. So if it was even as low as 400, but imagine what will happen now that government says we are not buying.
So yeah, we just hope that the minister there and the food reserve agents will make remedies, and they take into into perspective the concerns being raised by the farmers. So here you are still watching the Camnet Breakfast Show, and we are discussing various issues, especially pertaining to the agricultural sector and the maize flour price, which was announced by the Food Reserve Agency, FRA. And we are also looking at the presidential address. As of today, the president will be engaging the media to inform the nation on various issues that have happened, various policy pronouncements and direction he wants to give to the nation. He has been true to his code to ensure that he keeps the nation informed in as far as addressing issues pertaining to the country through the press is concerned. So we just hope that you do touch to matters that you think are dear to you. And in case you want to join the conversation or give us what sort of question would you want the media to ask for you, you can do that. You can engage us, and people can take up your question, and equally myself can take up your question, and we can ask for you. But what matters is what is affecting you the most as the people of Zambia. What do you want the president to do in the immediate is the question we are asking, in case you have a perspective. First of all, looking at the president, Hakainde Hichilema has addressed topical issues that the president is expected to inform the nation on include among other issues is that it has been his trend to ensure to update the nation pertaining to his trips and what proceeds they are coming with. So we're looking at, for example, he has been to France, he has been to Britain, and he did confer with Macron there in France, and the king in Britain. Now, these two trips, the president also met the private sector in terms of investors, where he was trying to sell Zambia's investment agenda. So now he's going to talk about that, and that's for sure. The president is going to look at the aspect of being questioned, or if he's not going to talk about it, he's likely to be questioned on the issue pertaining to Mopani copper mines, as well as Konkola copper mines, KCM, in terms of what is the government doing to unlock these two mining firms, because they are critical to the economy of the copper belt, not just the copper belt, but Zambia as a whole. So the president is likely to tackle that aspect. So let's pick this call. Hello, you are through to the Camnet Breakfast Show. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir. Your name and where you're calling us from?
My name is Rocky, calling me from Livingston.
Livingston. You can go ahead with your contribution, sir.
Yes. I am just a new kid on the block, especially doing farming.
Exactly.
I'm doing my farming in Eastern Province. I'm very devastated and very disappointed with the announcement that was made yesterday.
On what aspects?
Speaking to everything is very difficult, and I tried to do my farming through soybean. I invested a lot. I'm just a small. This is my first time doing this, and only to discover to say the government is not buying anything. We were waiting for the prices to be announced, because before the announcement, there were different private sectors who were coming to buy a kg at 4 kwacha. Now, calculating a 4 kwacha by 50, that will be 200. Now, if they are saying they are not buying anymore, this will take advantage of the private sector also to buy the product at a very low price. So we are very worried in the first crisis. We were even borrowing some financials, to invest so at the end of the day we can have something. But now with this, where are we going? So I don't know how the government will have to help us in this, because if they are saying completely they cannot buy this commodity, then we are dead. I think that's my contribution.
Thank you very much, sir, for that valid contribution. Remember, on Camnet TV, every opinion counts, because here we believe in objectivity, and that because democracy is about tolerating views that you don't like from someone you might not like, and that respect for one's opinion is vital for us as a democracy to thrive. So you too can equally give us your opinion on how these policies are affecting you, on what you think must be done to safeguard your interest as you participate in the economic affairs of this country.
Patrick Soko, very disappointing there indeed. He says, I'm a first-time farmer, and it's really sad. People go out there, Patrick, to borrow money. They've seen, okay, soybeans has market. Let me try to invest. Let me try to diversify. So it goes out there, you get resources that you want to invest in this business. And then suddenly, you invest everything, including borrowed resources, and you are told there's no market for your commodity.
And you're wondering why people are borrowing for consumption.
Let's get to hear what another caller has to say. Hello, good morning.
Hello,
good morning, sir. You are through to the program, Camnet TV. Please tell us your name, where you're watching us from, and you can go ahead with your contribution.
I'm Prince Kalala, calling from Solwezi.
It's good to know Solwezi is tuned this morning. Please go ahead.
Yes, I think I know most people have talked about this, and they are hate that the move of not buying soybean is quite a big problem. I echo with what the other caller said from, I think, from Solwezi, Northwestern Province as well. Where it seems something should have been active. Somehow giving out the price. And the people who say good, now people are going to.
Oh, we lost Mr. Kalala.
Yeah.
Prince Kalala there from Solwezi is.
Yeah, you can still call us so that we get that perspective. I don't know how we lost it. Probably network connection, probably airtime and all those things.
But it's an important point, exactly what someone said, to say, there's no way you can completely say you're not going to buy when you are the ones who set the price. So when you withdraw, what happens on the market?
You leave them vulnerable. You leave them vulnerable.
The President, Patrick Soko, needs to answer to this. And hopefully before our head of state, President Haile Hichilema, we love you, we pray for you, and we want you to rule this country in favor of the people of Zambia. But you can't favor the people of Zambia if at all others have to cry. So I hope even before you can address the country today at 10 hours, you are actually listening to this particular program and the opinions that are coming out. Let's accommodate another caller. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Sir, good morning. You're through to the program. Tell us your name, where you're calling us from, and you can go ahead with your contribution.
I'm Patrick Mark.
Hello.
We are getting too much feedback. Are you able to reduce the volume on your TV set?
Okay, that's okay.
Yes, you can speak up.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You said you are. Okay.
I'm with farmers.
Mr. Mwale. Hello.
Okay, we have a pretty bad line there, so we request that you find a position where there's good network and be able to call us back so that we can get your view, because we are unable to get you.
We're able to hear you. We are getting this very loud, I don't know if it's echo or bang from your phone, so we're unable to get anything.
It is fluctuating. The call is also fluctuating.
Yes.
It's loud, it goes mute, just like that. So
but we want to accommodate the call. We want your voice. We want to hear you. I know you said you are a farmer, though we don't know where you're coming from exactly, but I know you are a farmer who was about to make a contribution. So please, just to call us so that we can hear your views and your opinion on this particular matter. And of course, Patrick, we were speaking to the fact that today the president at 10 hours is expected to address the media. So everyone in the world, in Zambia particularly, will be watching and want to hear. Among other important issues that the president needs to address today is the issue of KCM and Mopani. We want to hear a voice from the president about that. And also, this particular topic we are discussing, that's why I'm saying, Soko, I hope the president is watching to respond to some of these things, because we've had callers who've raised concerns with regards to not buying soybeans. Our first caller, where was he from?
Ikeleng, that's a northwestern
That was
province.
the second caller.
He also is also from Solwezi.
The first caller was...
the first caller was Ikeleng, then we had Solwezi.
No, the Ikeleng was the second caller. Okay, yeah, but he mentioned that in his area, literally no one buys soybeans. Anyway, let's accommodate another call. Hello, good morning.
Yo, Mauka.
Mauka.
Ngambe kambe chingoni chakwatu.
Tie ntigambe.
Tauka Mauka bwana.
Awe sewo tauka. Tie ni mungalankule.
Mukamba na aweruzani banda kuchipata.
Aweruzani tipase ni ndemanga.
Mulimi wa soya ndipo so mulimi wa chimanga. Boma ifunika kweza kiganizo cha soya beans because alimi bambiri tinalima soya beans kamba kama uyayo kamba kuti tizilima kambe uzala sekati ndipo chimanga icho tinalima koma mpengamene apereka boma yo 280 kuliyo boma ngakhale mtengo abwino koma tazona nzakuti chimanga chaching'ono mdziko muno amlimi ambiri analima soyabins cholengezada akagulisa soyabins akaguleko chimanga ndiye boma ikuti soya sigula igula chabe chimanga na raisi kapena mwina na shafu ndiye alima ambiri analima soya aba antonsa nasunga soya aludaniza kudakika nao bwanji ndiye a president mwina amiso kwa agriculture amekula amiso kwa agriculture amtoro kupanga chiganizo aziona kuti chithandiza lini ote kuti salini chifukwa chakuti anapereka mbewu kuti tizilima kafinkafinka wa mbewu ndiye alimanso ndiye komanso kuti figura kwamba kuti swati sipereka kuti ngati nkotheka atiwewe gulise kuli maiko ena yamene yangati gule umtengo wabwino kopanda zoyikayika yaingatedala yachani mwina wamwali kumalawi wagula soyabins pa 9 kwati ya Malawi ya Zambia 9 kwati ndiye ngati nkotheka atiwewe kuti mmaboda mwina muli makantries ena yamene yangafune soyabins atirole kuti pereke kai goma chibura Ndiye maoyanga.
Zikomo. Yeah, interesting views from Eastern
Mr.
Province.
Banda there. I know Eastern Province, Patrick, so why we are having a lot of calls from this particular part of the country is that Eastern Province, they do a lot of soya beans. If you want soya beans, just go to Eastern Province. It is like, you know, a grass of soya beans just lying in the district, but of course, Eastern Province does a lot of soya beans, and you know, Mr. Banda there has raised a good point to say, if you can't buy, can you please open up the borders,
the exports to other countries who can buy at a good price, such as Malawi. So we hope that they are listening and taking your perspective.
This is where I was also asking a question. You know, Malawi there is saying, you know, there's a good price. At least they are giving us at 9 kwacha per kilogram. And you know, if that's true, there is demand. I'm wondering why government said they couldn't find market for soybeans out there when Malawi, just our neighbor here, DRC, just the two of our neighbors, Malawi, DRC, even Zimbabwe, just these 3 countries, just cracking a deal with them, they would wipe out all the soybeans from the Zambian market. But we've been told government could not find market for soybeans. So I'm kind of wondering, Patrick, so for where we went wrong as a country.
We are going wrong in everything. But we know that's where it gives me to what the political movement have been saying, that we need serious state farms, for instance. State farms, we support small-scale farmers so that they complement each other. And what we do is that we can then feed the region. If we're talking about feeding the region as per government desire, then these issues should be a thing of the past. You know, addressing the plight of farmers, it should be a priority. You know, you are through to the program. Good morning. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, morning. This is Phil from Kapua.
You can go ahead with your contribution, sir.
Yeah, concerning the mining sector in Zambia, you see, I'll simplify this issue.
Okay.
It's where men, Chirombere Chinomchere. Namasaka Getinto, Avanti for but no more proper build. Ever talk for a nothing data. Now, of course, you get that the interest we have in data, Marata Mesa Rata build. You see? But vendetta, but you pay right what the interest we have vendetta. Number one, proper build. The Rapa vendetta. But vendetta, I need to Pakana.
Kings, about Copper Belt, Natural Farmer, and that's Kafiwe.
Yes.
You're from Copper Belt.
Mainly, I was what that of this, so I understand this is a Copper Belt.
Inquiry. But we also had some people Copper Belt.
You see, you are trying to impose the data on the Zambian people. My one. So by imposing the data on the Zambian people, this is the situation we are now. Zambians cannot choose to mine, to start to do mining in Zambia. Now, of course, you get that the interest in the data, we will still see a lot of suffering in Zambia. If you are a man, you see a try on the wrong terrain. But the data can still go ahead. Your opponent is interested even in the data.
Interesting. Thank you very much. We've gotten your view loud and clear.
But because
Are you still there?
Mr. Kings.
Mr. Kings.
It seems we lost Mr. Kings there.
He
passionately talking about Konkola Copper Mine and Mopani Copper Mine on the Copper Belt. We know the president, in case you're wondering why he's brought up that discussion, among the topics that we are discussing is what are your expectations in today's press briefing by the head of state, President Hakainde Hichilema. I remember 10 hours today, he will be addressing the press, the media. And among the key issues that we are expecting him to table is the issue of Konkola Copper Mines and Vindata. But Mr. Kings there from Kafiwa says, you know what, we are yet to see what is happening. What is good, you know, attracts sort. Like when something is good, definitely it will attract its own sort. And remember, the Bible also says we are the salt of the world. We are, of course, nice, delicious, you know, human beings, and we are the salt of the world. But of course, he says we know that the current administration has personal interest in vendetta and they want to bring vendetta back. But also, so far, we did see the clergy at one point on the Copper Belt hold a press briefing and they were saying, if it's the Copper Belt, we've agreed that vendetta should come back.
Others would argue they were sponsored.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a discussion for another day. You might be right. We had the clergy, we had also some youths on the Copper Belt, you remember?
The politics behind. But okay, the interesting part of this topic, Prudence, I'm going to be Sharon.
I know you get used, Patrick, so
but it's Prudence now. Now, listen, the interesting part about this is that, it's a difficult situation which the European administration finds themselves in. Now, listen to what happened. Prior to the election day, okay, let's pick this call, Prudence.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Fine, thank you, sir. How are you?
Blessed of the Lord, and how are you?
Fine, thank you. You are through to the program. Please tell us your name, your contribution, and where you're from.
I'm Pastor Mtale calling you from Kushi, Matanta specifically.
Pastor Mtale, it's good to know Kushi is watching. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Yes, I've got two observations from your program. Number one is on the price of soybeans.
Exactly.
For sure, it is unprecedented that hardworking farmers have been hit below the belt. Because the government came in and indeed gave a yardstick of the pricing. Because they are giving now the leeway to the farmers, buyers, who can come and predict any price. Because there is no way we can more like give an example. So on the maize, well, we can't say anything. That's all the same. But on the soybeans, because our people here, many have ventured in soybeans. And the two, it is demotivating because the government have been saying intercropping, and for sure they say no, soybeans is a nitrogen fixing crop. And now if they can't buy, what are they implying to us as farmers? Because no one will venture to buy into planting soybeans because the pricing is devastating. And at the same time, I wanted to say something on the appreciation of the kwacha to $1, which I've seen that it is not corresponding to the pricing of the commodities. I was buying a packet of sugar yesterday, which was 25 kwacha and 24 kwacha, and they are saying kwacha is appreciating. Then we are not seeing the correlation of appreciating. It's more like there is nothing that is happening. Let them come out and speak and tell us the truth. I think I can end here. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Pastor Mtale there from Kushi. Will be our last caller for the day. I know we could have accommodated more calls, but time, of course, Patrick Soko is not with us. So these are some of the views that have come from the viewers this morning with regards to the announcement of not buying soybeans by the government. And then we did also see government announce that for a 25-kilogram bag of white maize, they will be buying it at 280 kwacha. So we've got quite interesting views that have come out, Patrick Soko, in today's discussion. And of course, tomorrow also we'll continue with this discussion, also seeing what the president will say today in his address. So for those who we have been unable to accommodate on this particular show, Patrick, they have a chance tomorrow. Make sure, remember, the show starts between 7 to 9. So when you tune in at that time, the earlier you call, the earlier we will accommodate some of those views. But let's get to hear what the president will say in his address.
Interesting. Let's wait to hear. This is where we have to call it a day and excuse the screens. Remember to always keep it on Camnet TV, because Camnet TV is not just another channel. This has been Patrick Soko and my co-host Prudence Chota. Bye-bye.